Good morning, my grade 8 students. How are you today? Okay, let's just wait for the others to join the meeting. Oh, I think everyone is already here. And before anything else, let's start our class with a prayer. The Holy Spirit. Amen. Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Now, I will check the attendance. Oh, great! No one is absent. Before we formally start with our class discussion, we will have classroom gamification called Name Me, wherein you will give me a word when you hear the word poetry. Then, explain why you come up with that word. So now, let's start. Who wants to volunteer? Okay, Maya. Thank you for that answer. Next one. Okay, Jana. Wow, great! Great students, your participation are well appreciated. Now, we are done with our classroom gamification. I prepared some questions to know your insights. What idea can you infer from the activity? Who wants to answer? Okay, Amandra. Thank you for that answer. What do you think is the importance of background knowledge or ideas? Okay, Alex. Thank you for that answer. And based on the activity, what is the discussion all about? Do you have any idea? Okay, Maya. Thank you for that wonderful answer. Now that we are done with those introductory activities and stimulating questions, we will formally start our discussion. We're going to discuss elements of poetry. But first, what is poetry? Poetry, also called verse, is a form of literature that uses aesthetic and often rhythmic qualities of language. And also, a poem is a literary composition written by a poet. And poetry has 10 elements. These are structure and form, meter, rhyme and rhyme scheme, sound and rhythm, subject, speaker, figurative language, theme, tone and mood, and syntax. So, what is structure and form? Poetry comes in a variety of forms and in each form follows a specific structure. For example, the sonnet form containing a set structure is different from odes. A free verse poem does not have a metrical regularity which can be found in a blank verse poem. The structural elements found in poetry are stanza, verse, and canto. Some of the important poetry forms include sonnet, ode, lyric, elegy, villanelle, limerick, and haiku. The next element is meter. Meter is the definitive pattern found in verse. Some of the important metrical feet in English poetry include iamb, trochee, dactyl, anapest, spondy, and pyrrhic. Poets utilize these metrical feet to create a pattern, which is called a metrical pattern or metrical scheme. Some of the important metrical patterns include iambic pentameter, iambic tetrameter, trochaic tetrameter, and trochaic octameter. Are you still with me, class? Great! So let's continue. Another element is rhyme and rhyme scheme. Rhyme is the repetitive pattern of sounds found in poetry. They are used to reinforce a pattern or rhyme scheme. In specific, poetry forms such as ballads, sonnets, and couplets, the rhyme scheme is an important element. The common types of rhymes used in poetry are end rhyme, imperfect rhyme, internal rhyme, masculine rhyme, and feminine rhyme. Another elements are sound and rhythm. Sound and rhythm are other important elements of poetry. The sound of a poetic text means how a line or what sounds some specific words evokes in reader's mind. Rhythm is a set pattern that is formed by these sounds. The next element is subject. The subject or content of poetry differs across a variety of forms. A subject is what the poem is about. For instance, the subjects of sonnets include love and admiration for one's beloved, heartache, and separation, whereas divine sonnets include the subjects of devotion to God, enlightenment, and salvation. Elegies are written in memory of someone who is no more. Therefore, the subject of these poems is a dead person. Another element is figurative language. Figurative language is seen in the literature, especially in the poetry where writers appeal to the senses of the readers. Through figurative language, writers usually use specific phrase or word to express something beyond the literal meaning. Sometimes, figurative language is used to present a comparison in the poetry in an interesting manner. The significance of the figurative language is noticeable as it allows the writers to relate to the readers. Some examples are metaphor, simile, personification, hyperbole, alliteration, and onomatopoeia. Are you still with me, class? Great! So let's continue. Another element is theme. The theme is a recurring idea or a pervading thought in a work of literature. Poetry themes include some common ideas such as love, nature, beauty, and as complex as death, spirituality, and immortality. An understanding of the theme helps readers to identify the core message of the poem or the poet's purpose for writing the poem. For example, the following lines of Robert Burns' A Red Rose. This piece is written in admiration of the speaker's beloved. Therefore, the main themes of the poem are beauty, love, and admiration. The next one is tone and mood. Diction is another significant aspect of poetry. It refers to the language, sound, and form used in a particular piece of poetry. The tone or attitude of a poem speaker and the mood of the entire text is part of poetic diction. The last element is syntax. The syntax is the ordering of words into meaningful patterns. Poetry has a distinct syntax compared to prose, fiction, and other forms of literature. Poets manipulate the conventional syntax to emphasize specific words. The purpose of adopting a specific syntax and diction is to achieve certain artistic effects such as tone, mood, and etc. Now, class, do you understand our lesson for today? But to wrap up the discussion, poetry has 10 main elements, namely structure and form, meter, rhyme and rhyme scheme, sound and rhythm, subject, speaker, figurative language, theme, tone and mood, and syntax. Now, after the discussion and wrapping up all of it, let's have a practice exercise. We will have oral recitation. I will call random students to participate and give insights on the lesson discussed. That student will give one element of poetry and realize the value of figurative language in poetry and explain it based on their understanding. So now let's start. I will call on Feli. Okay, Feli? Great! Now, let's move on to the next step, which is to check your full understanding of the discussion and wrapping up for the clear and concise comprehension. To assess your knowledge, recognize the 10 elements of poetry by answering this matching type. Match column A to column B. I will give you 5 minutes to answer. You may now start answering. Send or pass your answer in the in-call message of this Google Meet. Now that 5 minutes is done, this time we will assess your creativity and critical thinking skills to truly test if you really understood the lesson. This time, you need to speak your insights out. Read the poem below entitled The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. After reading comprehensively, explain how its elements contribute to its theme, emphasizing appreciation of the value of figurative language in poetry. Send your answers in the in-call message of this Google Meet. And before dismissing our class, I will leave you an assignment. That's all for today. Goodbye, class, and don't forget to finish your assignment. See you tomorrow!